Hey, family, how's everybody doing? My name is Ross from the DMV. Also tonight, I have joining me that will introduce himself will be Brother Logic. I'll come back in and I'll reintroduce myself and give you my credentials and information. Brother Logic, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, family. Thanks. It's an honor to be on with you all this evening. I'm Logic Supreme, co-founder of Be the Power, co-founder of United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. And I'm just here to talk about this is an issue tonight that's near and dear to my heart. And I think it's a family issue. It's a family discussion, and it's an American aspect of life. And we're going to make it a concert, and hopefully a lot of people can be educated and take something home and enhance their family and their personal lives with it.
All right, Brother Logic. I thank you so much for that. Again, I'm Ross from the DMV, but a lot of you may know me as Ross from the DMV. But I also am a firearms instructor, certified, licensed, and insured firearms instructor and educator. I'm a member of NAAGA, the National African American Gun Association. And I also am a member of the NRA, and I'm also a member of USCCA, United States Concealed Carry Association. So I do have credentials. We're going to be talking about 2A tonight. And I wanted to apologize to everyone. We had a scheduling conflict that had just come up with Mr. Philip Smith, who is the president of the National African American Gun Association. But we're looking forward to being able to reschedule in the near future. So just be mindful of that. Peace, Gerard. Thank you. Peace and reparations. So we're looking forward to that pretty soon. So right now we're going to go into a message that is from Philip Smith, who is the president of the National African American Gun Association, or NAAGA. Okay, so we have a great message that comes in from him that I think you all need to hear, and we're going to be get your messages or notes together as we talk about, our 2A rights, Second Amendment rights. Okay, so do we have that clip?
We are not here.
Sure, one moment. This is Natalie, by the way, by the People Media, just checking in and helping out tonight.
Thank you, Natalie. We appreciate you. That's right. We are by the People Media, and be the power. It's BTP squared, if you want to look at it that way. So we're getting it on tonight.
Okay.
Now I want to say this. We are not here on any level, and I want to make sure this is crystal clear. I'm not here to get approval from anybody or any other organization. We are here to validate ourselves as black folks. We don't need somebody to say you have their approval. We don't need their approval. We can approve this ourselves. This is for us and by us. We're for the African American community unapologetically. Does that mean other folks from other ethnic groups, if they want to join, you are welcome to join in our process of learning how to defend ourselves, learning how to about guns, learning about our history as a people. You're welcome to join us. I will always say that. But the conversation will always be laser focused on African Americans and our experience and what we need when it comes to firearms.
All right. Thank you for pulling that video up. That's important so you understand. One of the things, if someone wanted to ask me about, well, what was important to you? Also, I'm sorry, I'm also the vice president of Onyx Sharpshooters. Onyx Sharpshooters is the local firearms gun club, or under NAAGA, in the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And we do various activities from range training indoors, range training outdoors, and we do other events, all kinds of events. We had a bowling night, or different activities that we're planning, dealing with urban survival and rural survival skills. So that's Onyx Sharpshooters that I'm the vice president of. So I almost forgot about that, but I don't know why. But so listening to Phil Smith, the president, he basically is saying that he's not here to play. He's not here to be, everybody can join, but the focus is still on, us as African American freedmen, firearms owners. And I mean, if you look at what he's saying, how serious he is, it doesn't matter if it's so many people that want to.
You feel as though being armed at all times is.
Yeah. Okay, that's okay. That's good.
My
So
apologies.
that's okay. That's a video we're gonna pull up soon too, and talk about like a Geronimo Pratt organization. That's a gun club in Texas, and there's their president and leader. He's being questioned in an interview. But Logic, what do you think? What do you think about the first impressions of what you saw from Mr. Phil Smith, the president of NAAGA and founder?
Well, I mean, I'm just coming into the knowledge of him. I thought, what he said, and it hit home. It's needed, that kind of tone in this day and time. But it's something that's historically always kind of been like anchored in to what we knew as a people that we needed for our own survival in this country. And as Americans, the Second Amendment, a lot of folks in our diaspora don't really make the connection to one of the, like, we used to seeing the other America go crazy about Second Amendment gun rights, but we're Americans too. And the Second Amendment should be as important, if not more so important, for our group, being the most attacked, the most targeted, and the being a group of people who have had the most violence visited upon them here in America. The Second Amendment should be near and dear to our heart. Like every freedman fan, I got to put a freedman spin on everything, right? Because it was the freedman who was attacked in early American history, right? It was after Reconstruction, it was the freedmen who were emancipated into homelessness and poverty, and who those first groups of domestic terrorists started attacking. You had the Midnight Marauders, you had the Riflemen's Club, the Red Shirts, you had all these, the first KK, you got the second KK after the first KKK was shut down. And so we hear about all those groups, but we don't hear enough about groups like the Deacons for Defense and Justice, who were organized around protecting our group from the KKK and protecting, civil rights marches and organizations and stuff like that. We don't talk enough about Huey P. Newton and the Black Panther Party for self-defense, right? So we've always used the Second Amendment as a defense for our survival, how to defend ourselves in the belly of the beast. And we are the true Americans. So these American principles, like the right to bear arms, it should be so near and dear to our heart, because dealing with 89 years of lynching and dealing with Jim Crow and black codes and sundown towns and being forced through domestic terrorism to flee our states of origin and be spread out all over the country and not really have no supremacy in numbers. No, we don't have time to look at the gun as an enemy. The gun should be your best friend. You had to look at it, but it's the way that and I know this is really not commented directly to the video statement, but it made me think about this, right? The gun in the family home should be looked at as another tool, like the hammer or the shovel or the kitchen knife. You understand? All these things can cause harm, but we don't have the same stigmas around them, right? Like you look at a chainsaw. A chainsaw can do some terrible damage, but you don't look at the chainsaw like, oh, get that chainsaw away from me. No, you know what it's for. You've been trained on how to operate it and use it. And so the education is what's missing from our people, right? The historical necessity of it and the actual technical education and the practical exercising of how to actually be comfortable with a firearm, how to actually use the firearm and be proficient with what its use is for, right? And so that's why we have educators like Sister Ross from the DMV to help educate our people to be comfortable and get back into embracing our right to bear arms and to defend ourselves.
Thank you, Brother Logic. I appreciate that. One of the things I wanted to, you said you dropped so many jewels in there. I'm having a hard time understanding where I should step in, but let me step into this on this part. In April of 2021 in WUSA, Larry Miller had written a piece, and it says that 60% of sales gun sales increase, that Black women were buying and owning in 2020. Now, I could attest to say a lot of my students are women that have never fired a firearm before, who or may have purchased a firearm after. In Maryland, we have a firearm pass or permit called HQL, handgun qualifying license, where I'm certified to be able to give that class and be able to certify people for it. But they'll go out and they're able to get the HQL in Maryland. Virginia, you don't need it. DC, it's online. And I mean, but DC, it's online, but whatever. People will still come to me saying they didn't understand it and they need help. But once you get it, you're able to purchase a firearm in this area. So in Maryland, I should say. So once you have that, people are buying a firearm, then they take it home and they're scared to death of it. And I don't want people to, that's a lot of investment as far as funding, money, and also your life. Right now, desperate times create desperate people. People are breaking into your homes and or breaking into your cars. You have to know the laws. Do not let something that happened, like say with the Rittenhouse case, get you messed up in your own area, because you are thinking, well, I'd had a right to protect my car when I caught somebody breaking into it. But in your state, you're not able to do that. You can't just shoot somebody that's on your property or whatever the case may be. You have to know these laws so you don't break the laws. I don't want anybody hemmed up because they don't have the proper information and being able to protect themselves. If your neighbors in the summer are just playing their music too loud at 2 a.m, you can't get your firearm and go out and shoot them. And I'm not making this up. These are things that people are saying. Well, if my neighbors are making noises, I'm gonna go shoot them, right? Because it's a lot of them. No, you can't do that. One thing I don't do, I don't, train people that I deem are, mentally unstable and will probably create a problem. A lot of people may have a record. I give them alternative means. Everything does not have to be lethal defense. There are alternative methods in order to protect yourself and your family. So we have to get into that. And ladies, we have to know, because 60% of us, as far as purchasing firearm, and there was a boom in 2020 because of the pandemic, because people felt insecure, and because people are desperate. And so desperate times create desperate people. And these desperate people don't care about breaking the law. They will take what is yours. And you have to defend what's yours, your family, yourself. It's imperative. So I strongly suggest that, people look into that. So we were talking to Brother Logic about, like, and Natalie's on here still.
Can I just ask one question though?
Absolutely. Sure, you may.
So, I mean, can we get back on the topic of the stigma? Like, why the stigma is there? Why, I was searching stock footage today, and I typed in black man with a gun, and it was all fingers pointing at their heads, right? There was no like pictures of a black man holding a gun, and I was just wondering, are people afraid to touch this topic? The fact that, I've heard a lot of people say, crazy people say, that black folks have like a genetic propensity to commit crimes, right? So my question is, are we so afraid, maybe due to respectability politics, to get out there and do a lot of what the mainstream America does, which is open carry, walk around and maybe go to a gun range and practice? Are we, being seen as threats? How do we, navigate that?
Okay, Brother Logic, you want to take that, or you want me to just grab that and tear it up? Great question, Natalie. Thank you.
It It is. Well, I'll speak a little bit, and I'll let you go in, and we can tag team that. One thing I would say, the stigma is definitely there, and it's been media driven, and it's been really a product of propaganda, right? And so when we're not in control of our own media, people can characterize us however they want, and they can drive whatever kind of messages they want. So you get the gang, like when you think about black people and guns, the dominant or the predominant image that pops up is criminal activity. So you don't get to see the family man or the man in the South, who also hunts. People just think white folks are the only people that hunt, right? Or you know what I'm saying? Or the people who like to shoot for sport. You think I've been to shooting conventions, I've been to gun conventions, and there's a lot of black folks there, but that doesn't get no media coverage, right? So everything that you see in the media really just depicts the black man and the gun in a negative light, and there's a long history of that, right? Every time that we stand up for ourselves, we're looked at this, criminal element, and that's purposeful, and it's made for us to, be deemed as a toxic element in the fabric of society. And the only way we can truly combat that is through education, through programs like this one, where we have to educate our own people and present those positive family images and reinforce those images with the right education about our right, and really connect ourselves back to citizenship and our own like citizenship rights, like our rights to bear arms as citizens is something that we have been disconnected to for many different reasons. And after Ross goes, I want to pass it to Ross. I just want to read a quote real quick, because I think Huey P. Newton kind of spoke to that, and I'd like to read a quote from him, if that's all right, after she goes.
Okay, I have a couple of things to say. Thank you, Brother Logic. One of the things I wanted to say is one of the safest times that I've felt safe in my life was when I was in with Onyx Sharpshooters. It was 6 firearm instructors, myself included, and about 20 brothers. It was 3 women, and we were just racking off in the range. I mean, I felt so safe and so empowered that it's ridiculous. I'm encouraging, the women everywhere. Like I'll talk to sisters all over all the time, and then they're like, you know what? I'm scared of the firearm. I'm scared of it. And I'm like, look, this is your power. This is part of your power. Don't feel afraid of it. And when they go in and they're in a situation where it's like 20 of us on the range, and it's like it's 5 lanes of rifles, shotguns, handguns just letting off, and the sound is power. It's just so powerful. It's hard for me to really explain that, and until you're in that situation where you're in there with firearms instructors, people are practicing, safe muzzle, practice. They're pointing down range, and you hear those. That to me sounds like the 4th of July for other people. And it was just so much empowerment, because I know that nobody's going to just walk in there and hurt us. I felt empowered. I felt All of us felt empowered. We had a great time. To me, that was my roller coaster ride. That was my empowerment thing. Another thing I want to say real quick is I'm planning on doing a free children's safety class, which is kids from 3 to 6 years old, because I'm sick of seeing things on the news where there was a mom who was with her toddler son. This is a couple months ago, and a little boy uh, picked up a firearm and shot his mom when she was on she shot her in the head when she was on a job on her Zoom call, and the people didn't know what happened or whatever the case may be. And there was another case recently here in the Washington D.C. area where a little child got a hold of a firearm and killed himself. They can't find the firearm, so somebody moved it. But I'm tired of seeing and hearing these cases, and they always seem to be in our community. Why? Because and I've looked at a lot of the things dealing with like the Democratic Party. They'll say, hey, we support 2A, but do you know that 89% of kids are shot and killed or harmed by a firearm? Well, the reason being because when do they actually teach in our community firearm safety to little kids? When do they teach the kids not to touch a firearm? They see it, they see the little cartoon, somebody has a little gun or ray gun or something like that, and they want to touch it and they want to play with it, or they'll see the parents with it. And yeah, that baby was like the baby was not even 2 years old that was recently touching the firearm and shot themselves because nobody wants to touch it. When you go to a school system, you say, hey, I want to teach kids how not to do this. Well, guess what? If you go to the NRA, they have an Eddie Eagle program where their kids are learning at a certain age what to do and what not to do. Then when they get older, they'll get into shooting and going hunting and things of that nature. And then they're learning. So I'm sitting there and talking to adults. These are women that are, 35 plus, and they're learning from in the gun store from, teenage white kids that are like 12 and 13 how to handle a firearm. Do you realize the power that their parents gave them through that education that our grown women don't have? Now we can sit here and talk all we want and hey, I'm tough and I can fight and I can do X, Y, and Z, but you don't put your hands up against somebody that has a firearm. You can't, you have no power there. So I mean, all the tough talk is meaningless if you can't back it up and you're not legal to even have it. The thing I'm gonna stress again, we're talking about safety, we're talking about training, and we're talking about knowing what to do in the right situation. So with the women, I mean, I want the brothers and the family to be safe too, but a lot of times brothers will take that initiative. Many will. But I want the women when they're not home. I've had, an image of a sister. It was a group of women wearing black dresses. All of them had like rifles, shotguns, handguns, and they looked amazing. I had other freedmen women saying, "Oh, they're trying to be their husbands." And I'm like, really? Let's unpack this. Why are they trying to be their husbands? Well, if they were let more, these are women saying this. If they were more docile, if they were more laid back, then they would have a man to protect them. And I'm like, I don't care how married you are. You could be married for 60 years. You're going to, at some point in time, split from your husband, whether he's going to play golf and you're at home. Now, what do? He's an hour away playing golf and somebody's breaking into your home. So, ladies, please don't start saying things that really don't make sense. You cannot
Yeah.
depend on your husband if you are either unmarried, that's obvious, right? Or if your husband's not even there, and that's too much of a responsibility to put on the man that he has to always protect you. What if he's at work and you're at home with the kids? You don't know
Can
what to
can
do
can
with
I add
somebody.
to that?
Yes, sir.
Man, you brought up, man, that I gotta add on to that. Now, to me, that is just the silliest kind of talk that you can have. You understand? You're trying to be the husband because she operates well. Look at what the other America. Everybody in the household know how to operate that weapon. And let me tell you, right? And no one never says the white woman's trying to be the husband when she gets the gun. Nope, she's just being an American. You understand? That's what you're being. And let me tell you something. I got 3 daughters and I'm married, right? Everybody in my house know how to operate the weapon. They know how to operate the 22 rifles. They know how to operate the AR-15. They know how to operate the 9mm. They know how to operate it. And one thing that we have to do is get rid of the fear, right? Because the fear makes you want to do what? Hide the gun from the children, right? And what the children's natural inclination is curiosity. They're going to go look for it. So without supervision, without training and guidance, they're going to do bad things with the weapon, irresponsible things with the weapons. But if they grew up with it, like I got my father's side of the family from Mississippi, everybody grew up with weapons in the house. Nobody shot themselves or anyone else, because they grew up with it. They saw the proper use and handling of it, the cleaning of it, the upkeep of it, right? And they knew how to put it away safely. And so now it becomes just another part of the house. And so when you try to hide, right, you don't educate. You don't educate and hide at the same time, right? So you're not educating and driving home the importance of safety. You're trying to conceal it, but it's a family tool for the family, because there was a news report where, and this is why it's important that you familiarize even your children, not just your wife, but even your children, with firearm principles and safety, and get them familiar with it, right? There was a young boy, I think he was 6 or 7. There was an intruder came into the home. The boy grabbed the rifle and he put the intruder down. He was like 7 or 8. His mom was there, everybody was there. He protected the household at the time, right? And he saved his family from who knows what could have happened had that intruder came in and just had his way with the family, right? And so the idea that the man has to be the only one with the weapon and who can use the weapon, that goes against anything. In the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, everyone was trained. It wasn't, oh, the men got the guns and the sisters go cook and sit down. No, that's foolishness, family. We are all Americans. We all need to defend ourselves. And even with, depending on where you live, you have states that are open carry, states that are concealed carry, and these hostile climates that we live in. What if your wife or your daughter or your sister or your mother is somewhere doing shopping or just doing daily activities, and they run into one of these nuts on the street? Look what happened to Ahmaud Arbery, right? He's just running. He get modern day lynching. You understand? So there is no gender designation for self-defense. Everybody has the right to defend themselves. Everybody should have the right to defend themselves. Everybody, the babies, you understand? Not that we are not, don't take that too literally, like, but I'm talking about the children, the woman, and the man. We all need to defend ourselves. And what if I'm incapacitated? What if I need my wife to come protect me too? Now, and then she might. In some instances, I've seen a lot of women who can outshoot men. You understand? I'm a range safety officer, and I've trained several dozens and dozens of people, right? And I've seen women be good enough to go to the make it to the President's 100. You understand? I work with one individual, a female. She outshot all the men, and she was number 99 on the President's 100 list, right? Of sharpshooters with the rifle. And so we really have to get rid of that bad information and just understand firearm ownership, right? And the ability to bear arms is an American thing. It's not a man thing. It's not a woman thing. Let's get rid of that. It's a safety thing. It's a self-defense thing. And it's the American right and the fundamental American principle. We just got to start operating like that.
Can I say one other thing while you get your Huey P. Newton quote together? That's another thing that we need to realize. Like, we can go out here and purchase the flyest gear and shoes and have our nails and hair, whipped cute and everything else. But it doesn't mean anything in terms of if you're not safe. Once you walk out of that door, ladies, I'm telling you, get your minds right before you leave the house. You got to get your mind right in your house. But I mean, that's probably going to be the safest place for you is in the home. But I see so many women out here. I'm going to give you one pointer. Getting out here and being on these cell phones and being oblivious to what's happening around you. It doesn't make, I see it all the time. And it makes me, it frustrates me because I see a woman who's a walking target for a predator, right? You're on the cell phone, you're focused on whatever's happening on the cell phone, and you're not focused on anything that's going on around you. And I mean, I'll play the part of just an observer, and I'll go up to some sisters and say, "Hey, excuse me, I'm a firearms instructor, but you were talking on that phone for the past 15 minutes." While I was waiting out here in the parking lot, you were loud, you weren't aware that I was looking at you. But just like I was looking at you, a predator could have been looking at you also. So I'm going to let you know this. Don't be on your phone by yourself out in the public like that. People have a tendency to forget where they are, and being on that cell phone takes you away to another location. So we need for people to be more focused. The stigma of a firearm is there because yes, it's lethal. It's a lethal weapon. But if you're trained on it, you're not scared of your car when you go out and tweak, turn it and start the ignition. Do you know how many people are killed from a fire, from just car accidents? You're not scared of the stove when you go turn it on, but people have, house fires all the time from over, cooking food. So we got to change our mind for things like that. Yeah, don't get ready, stay ready. You got to, I mean, I'm not saying you can't have fun in life, but you just have to be aware. Desperate times create desperate people, and desperate people do any and everything. A criminal does not have to worry about having a permit, a license, or any of those things. They'll go out and they'll go get a firearm in the street and be ready to rob you that night. They don't worry about having, they'll rob you that day. They don't care about any of the permits. We're trying to make sure that you're together and your two-way rights are on point. So Logic, I'm sorry, back to you, brother.
No, man, good stuff. And one thing that you said before I read this quote, because Huey and the whole party, brother Bobby and everybody, they were very big on this. You mentioned earlier the the importance of knowing the laws, right? The state statutes, the city codes and ordinances, because you don't want to get caught out there, right? We still black and in America, right? So you need to be very proficient. So when we talk about firearm owner safety and just firearm ownership in general, whether you're a concealed carry, a card carrying person, whether you do open carry, we need to be very familiar. We need to be experts on what the codes, because they're always changing, right? We need to be experts on what we can and cannot do. See, Huey P. Newton in the Black Panther Party had an education program that was so good. They knew everything about the city codes and the state statutes on carrying firearms in the public. So everything that they did was legal, right? They knew that you, at that particular time, you could carry a rifle as long as there wasn't a charged round in the chamber, but you could have it loaded as long as it wasn't charged. You was perfectly legal. And so, like, knowing those specific details about the laws and the codes of your specific locality are very important as a firearm owner. Knowing, like, getting your proper credential. Whether I personally believe, like John Brown believe, I'm big on open carry. I believe if someone has a weapon, I want to know it. You know what I mean? But if there are situations where concealed carrying is absolutely necessary, and I understand those who choose to do it. And so we really have to be knowledgeable. Education has to be the cornerstone of everything that we do. We want to be smart about it, we want to be knowledgeable about it, and we want to be experts. That weapon that you own, you need to know everything that you can about that weapon, all the specs, how to clean it, how to disassemble it, reassemble it, how to do proper maintenance on that weapon, and to keep it safe, and how to clear malfunctions. You understand? So we need to, and how to do functions checks on your weapons too. So the education. One day I would love to come and we do a whole program. I'll break it down, a weapon for you. We can start with something small like a 9mm, something. We break it down, show you how to clean it, identify the nomenclature and the different parts of the weapon, put it back together, right? And just so we can start getting this education. Now we got to educate ourselves about everything. I want to read this from Huey P. real quick. Yeah, rest in peace to the great ancestor Huey P. Newton. He
Yeah.
said, and I quote, right? Any unarmed people are slaves or are subject to slavery at any given moment. If the guns are taken out of the hands of the people, and only in this, you got to keep in context, right? What's going on, and only the pigs have guns, then it's off to the concentration camps, the gas chambers, or whatever the fascists in America come up with. One of the democratic rights of the United States, the Second Amendment to the Constitution, gives the people the right to bear arms. However, there is a greater right, the right of human dignity, that gives all men the right to defend themselves. And that's one of my favorite quotes from him in regards to carrying firearms and having them and owning them. And like he said, bigger than the Second Amendment was that human right to dignity and self-defense. Like, that's what it really comes down to. At the end of the day, your life is the most important thing that you have. That's the most important thing that you have, and you have to be able to protect that. That life is yours, and the life that you help create and reproduce. You have to be able to protect that to the best of your ability. And there's a lot of weapons in America, and just not having it, or having an uneducated perception of it, really puts you and your family at a disadvantage when it comes to your own personal safety.
Can
And
can
I'm,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
just real quick, if I can interrupt? Can we get back to the laws, right? There's a clip I wanted to show, talking about how anti-black these gun laws are, and I know that we should definitely be, learning and knowing and keeping up with all the laws that are out there. But a lot of these things were not made for us. A lot of these laws. So I just want to real quick play a clip um, about anti-black gun laws. One moment.
Sure, absolutely.
There has been a long racist history of gun control laws. Now, that's not to tar all gun control laws. Gun laws are part of American law, and American law has been, unfortunately, deeply infected by racism. The Founding Fathers had racially restrictive gun laws, for instance, prohibiting in Virginia African Americans from possessing firearms. After the Civil War, in southern states, one of the ways in which they tried to keep African Americans second-class citizens was by denying them access to guns, along with other constitutional rights. And then in the 1960s, when you had not only the Black Power movement, but also significant racial unrest in major American cities like Detroit, and New Jersey, and Los Angeles, some of that violence in those cities was attributed to the easy access to firearms. And so the 1960s saw just sort of an effort to promote gun control, not in the name of keeping African Americans from possessing firearms, but in practice, that was one of the ways in which these gun control laws worked. There's
Absolutely. Thank you, Natalie, for that. In this area, in the DMV, all of the firearms instructors, like myself, and the gun clubs will help you to stay on in step in understanding what's available and what you can and cannot do. That's the benefit and beauty of joining a firearms club such as Onyx Sharpshooters, because we're constantly sharing information. And it depends on, like for me, I have to know the jurisdictional laws of all three states, or the two states in the federal city. We have to know what is legal and what is illegal, because if a student calls me up, or a potential person calls me up and they want to take a class, I have to first find out, where do you live? And they're like, well, I have a house here and a house there and a house there. What does your driver's license say? I mean, I have to know where you live in order for you to be able to give you the statutes and the laws for that particular jurisdiction. And it's so important, because what he was saying is right. Like, you had the logic had kind of hit on it with the Black Panther Party. They created in California that the NRA, one of the organizations, yes, I'm a member of, but they had created a law called the Mulford Act in 1967, because the Black Panther Party walked into the State House carrying their firearms and walked out onto the floor, the legislative floor, and they were terrified. I mean, a group of armed Black, freedmen walking in there with firearms, with long guns, ready to do damage. It looked like to them. They thought, I mean, they were cleared. They were terrified of it. So the Mulford Act from Ronald Reagan, and it was supported at that time by the NRA. They basically did not. They changed the laws and everything else dealing with California, and they made it so that it's very difficult. Like, if you look at standards when you're purchasing a firearm, they always say, well, according to California, because California has one of the strongest anti-2A firearms laws that's out here. So, and that's the thing about states like New Jersey, New York, a lot of these states are, but is the crime in your area going down? That's what you have to look at. And if it's not, it's probably because the criminals look at people that are not armed like targets. I'm not they're saying, okay, well, you probably don't have a firearm if you're a law-abiding citizen and you live in California. You probably don't have a firearm if you're a law-abiding citizen and you live in New Jersey. Why? Because a lot of those states require you, if somebody breaks in your home, not only are you, if you have a firearm, a legal firearm, you're supposed to run from the trouble, even if you have, they break into your house, you got your family, you're supposed to almost jump out the fire escape to get away from them, even if you have firearms. And I'm telling you that perspective from a police officer that I know in New Jersey. It's really crazy. You have a duty to run. In Maryland, it's you can defend your home. It's called the castle law. You can defend your home once they come across that threshold. In other states like Virginia and Texas, if they come onto your property, so you have to know your state laws. I mean, and they change all the time. So what I'm saying today may not be the same as tomorrow. So that's something that you have to know in your state. There are different things that pop up and they say, well, hey, I could do this or that. Let me give you guys a quick example. My niece, when she was about to go to college, I'm like, oh, I'm real proud and happy my niece going to college, right? And I wanted to give her pepper spray. We agreed that pepper spray is a non-lethal thing, but she's not like me. I'm 6 foot tall and X amount pounds and I work out, right? So I can handle mine. She's not built like me. So I wanted to give her some kind of tool. Well, in our state, I can't, as being her aunt, cannot give her pepper spray. Her parents have to give it to her. If I were to give her the pepper spray, then I'm breaking the law. So you have to know things like that, because if she were to get into an incident and say, who gave you this pepper spray? She says, well, my aunt gave it to me. Then she would get me in trouble for giving her that. So I can go, and I've got it from like the little department store right there by the checkout counter. She can go and purchase it at 17 legally, no problem. Her parents can purchase it and give it to her, but not her aunt. So it's little silly things like that that can get you in trouble if you don't know what's going on, if you don't know the law, right? So we want to, like I said, keep you safe and keep you legal. So that's part of the discussion that we have here.
Yeah, and in regards to the legalities, right? That's why you have to do your own due diligence, right? And any good gun club will teach you that too. They're going to get you familiar with the laws, but they're going to encourage you to do your own due diligence, because at the end of the day, it's your own personal responsibility. And when you look at, I'm glad Ross went over that, because I was going to cover that if she didn't, what happened in California, because that was a real big thing. And so you know we are already in a certain position, born into a certain position as freedmen in this country. You know what I mean? And so we got to know that even historically, things change from state to state, and it's always been that way. Even during the height of slavery, you had certain states where Black folks owned weapons, like Baltimore, Rhode Island. And there were certain places, New Hampshire, certain places where people are. So you got to that. I only say that for historical context, that still is persistent to this day, that every state and even different cities have different laws. So it's all really based on, you can't look at what Logic's doing in Savannah, Georgia and say, I'm going to do what Logic's doing. The laws in Savannah, Georgia may not be the same laws that you have. Even when I was living in Illinois, right? The laws in the city of Chicago are different than the laws in the capital of the state in Springfield, Illinois, right? So Chicago, Illinois gun laws are different than Springfield, Illinois gun laws. So if you want to be a firearm owner, and you should, I hope that you do, you got to educate yourself, just like anything, just like she did the car analogy. If you want to be a car owner and a driver, you want to educate yourself on the safety rules of the road, the car safety, how to operate the vehicle. And you know, that's just going to come with that territory. And we have to take that same approach with our Second Amendment rights, even more so, because driving ain't even a right. And you more invested in driving than you are in your own actual constitutional right to bear arms, right? Which is protecting your life. and keeping your family safe. And a lot of those and the laws can get tricky. Just like Ross was saying, in certain states, in certain cities, you're almost mandated to do everything you can to avoid using that firearm, even if you have an intruder. If they're climbing out the window, you got to let them get away. You know what I mean? And so there's so, but again, I ain't going to suggest this, but at the end of the day, it's your story against theirs and when the cops get there. So, you can take that for what it is, right? And but you have to be smart, right? But but you have to be smart. You have to be knowledgeable. Even if you have a shotgun, there are some laws to where that you can't have buckshots, right, or deer slugs in all your rounds. You have to swap them out. You have to have them staggered, right? So you just gotta know. And then if you go and buy a firearm, if you buy one from a good gunsmith or a good gun shop, you ask them questions. Them people love to talk, man. I ain't never met a gunsmither or an armorer or a gun shop owner who didn't like to talk and educate. Just go in there and just ask some questions, man, and get familiar. And usually they have some literature there as well that you can pick up and read and just get familiar. But just know, if you don't take nothing away, know that is your right. Even if you choose not to be a gun owner, I will know that is your right constitutionally as a citizen of this country. And I hope and I encourage that you do become interested in owning a weapon. And if you're in a city or a state where it's really oppressive, advocate for it. That's another part of your politics. Advocate to get for Second Amendment reform. Advocate for that. And just to last thing I wanted to say on this particular note, Ross was you just was saying something that made me want to speak to this particular point. It just escaped me, but it's gonna come back. I'm gonna spin it back to you, but it's gonna come right back to me.
Absolutely. Let me know when it does, because I wanted to talk too about this. When you're talking to a community, know this, that when you're going to a gun club or you're not a gun store or any type of gun show, that we're in the minority there. But the fact that you're there, you don't really feel like an outsider. I've been to many different gun shows, and people respect when you take your own safety and family safety and responsibility in hand. They could be some of the nicest people. I mean, I'll go out of state to go to a gun show or to a gun range, being with Onyx sharpshooters, and some of the most open carry people that you go see, and they're like, wait a minute, you mean you're a firearm instructor? Because our image has been that we're docile, that we just go out to these church functions and turn our gun in for a pair of sneakers. And when they see someone that looks like us, and we're seriously invested in being firearms owners and practicing our 2A, you know what they have for us is respect. So, and another thing I wanted to let you guys know too, Logic, have you thought of your point? Or, I mean, because
Now
okay,
keep going, keep going,
no
keep going.
problem.
I'll let you know.
One of the things, as far as Natalie and I were talking before, and there is an organization. I'm gonna just give you one, because I don't want to keep talking about Onyx sharpshooters. Let's go to the Elmer Geronimo Gun Club in Texas. They were in the head of that gun club was interviewed, and he had some really great points. I mean, a lot of times people say, well, you're a Republican, or you're a Republican if you want guns. And I need us to understand, it's not about being a Republican or a Democrat, because we're talking about both sides of the same coin as far as I'm concerned. I'm looking out for our people. So I wanted you guys to hear this particular video clip, because I think this is really important for us to be able to understand. Natalie, is that available?
Forward.
Back when you needed the black vote to push you over the top so you could beat Trump. Show me where that worked for us and tell us what we got for that. All of these agendas are being met. Where is the black agenda? Why is it not being met, and why was it not being met first?
Well, generally, when we talk about those in support of Second Amendment, strong Second Amendment, are Republicans.
Right.
And then everyone else is a Democrat.
Right.
given your position, I'm curious to know where that strict partisan divide hits you.
Right. I don't care one way or another about a political party. As I've grown and evolved, I've realized that both parties are just a different side to the same coin.
The black.
Okay, there it is. Now, I mean, so thank you, Natalie, for that. We basically are not worrying about what party you belong to because yes, self-defense, you're right, Gerard. Thank you so much. Self-defense is not a partisan issue. That's the thing we need to get people to understand. I'm in the DMV. It's a lot of people here that don't want a firearm because they are worried about, something happening in their home or they're afraid of it for whatever reason. And we have to dispel all that. And we have to, like I tell people, get yourself a gun safe. Get yourself a gun safe that you can open and your kids can't open. Nobody else can open it but you and your spouse or whatever the case may be. But we're not here advocating for a Republican Party. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not a Republican and nor am I a Democrat when it comes down to any of this, because we have to advocate for what makes sense for us, what makes sense. So even in if you talk to Philip Smith, you talk to anybody in the NRA, anybody in USCCA, it's really not about whether we don't care if you say, well, I'm a Republican. Nobody asks you. Nobody cares. Nobody really cares. When you're going to the gun shows and it's all kinds of people there, they don't ask you before you purchase a firearm, are you, are you are you a crazy right winger? They don't care. They want, if you say, hey, I'm gonna put down, X amount of dollars for this particular CZ 9mm, they don't care what you are, right? You can say, well, I'm left-handed, I'm right-handed. Who cares? Nobody. They're there to make a sale. They see you as a potential customer, and they often see you as an ally. I've met some of the nicest people at a gun show because I'll basically go to one in maybe say Timonium and go to another in York, Pennsylvania the following week. And I see it's a lot of the same vendors, and they're like, "Wait a minute, I just saw you 7 days ago last week." I said, "Yeah, you did. And how you doing?" I mean, some of the nicest people because they respect you. They're not sitting there looking at you like you're, going against their ability to carry a firearm. So that's something we definitely wanted to let you all know about too. Um, we're getting ready to close out in a little bit, but we got like 5 or 6 more minutes, and then yes, I'm sorry.
Well,
Lodge.
before we go, it has. I am now able to recall what I wanted to say then.
Sure, go ahead, brother.
One thing that I think is very interesting, and there's a lot of charts out there that you can pull up. But if you look at the gun crimes, right, and gun violence, you will find that throughout the country, you would think that where the most stringent and restrictive gun laws, it would suppress gun crime and gun violence, right? But what we through research and the empirical evidence, we've seen that it's not the case. You would think that where the narrative is being driven, you would think that the more guns, the more gun crimes, the more shootings, and the more deaths. But we found out in places like Alabama and rural places, Texas, and the southern cultures are more gun embracing. They have less gun crimes than states like Illinois, New York, you know what I mean, Philadelphia, and places like that, right? And so there's something about that you would think that, okay, so we get rid of the guns, you get rid of the crime, or we create more gun laws. That's how that's not all that's going to do is create more gun crime, family. That's going to create more gun crime, put more people in jail, and it really disproportionately impacts the people who are already in a very dangerous and endangered kind of situation. And so like it's just bad politics all across the board for any black folks in America to really be like anti-Second Amendment. And like Ross said, it's not a left leaning thing or a right or a red or a blue thing. It's an American thing. At the end of the day, this is the country that we all live in. We got one thing that we all have in common, right? And you can just look at me and Ross and tell what that is, right? And so you got to understand that no matter what your political leanings are, we're all still American. That Second Amendment is for all Americans, white, black, brown, whatever. And we
Absolutely.
shouldn't give it up for nothing.
Thank you, Josh. He said where you have the highest concentration of poverty is where you have the highest gun violence. So we really need to do something about that poverty. That's what I was speaking on to about another organization, and they were talking about we got to do something about these guns. I said, you want to do something about the guns? Let's do something about our people not having the economic means to earn a living. That's going to stop all of that from happening, because if people have a good job with able to support their families, then they won't be out here and be desperate to, it should be the topic, a subtopic of the night. Desperate times create desperate people. One of the other things I wanted to say to kind of camel back on what Brother Logic was talking about, the Deacons for Defense, that's one of the organizations you will learn about under NAAGA. NAAGA has a lessons where you're actually learning about history of Black and freedmen from the times of chattel slavery until through the Reconstruction, through the Black codes. You're actually learning about rights that were given and taken away for our freedmen ancestors throughout. And now that's one of the things that the Deacons for Defense, they were dealing with the Klan at the time. Now having the Klan come up against them, individual, that it didn't work with 40 guns pointing right back at them. They were scared. They got in their vehicles and drove off. So if you're meeting force with force and you're practicing your legal Second Amendment rights, then the Deacons for Defense, they were no joke. So they organized, and they knew that if you have the people are scared of, they know what a firearm will do. They go out and they're on the range. They know what 40 firearms pointing at them will do. They know that they're gone. And people have respect. That's what you call respect. Some people call it fear. It's both. And respect. Okay, well, you're willing to stand there and point. Then people, that's one of the reasons we need to respect our veterans. We need to respect anybody that handles and knows what to do with the firearm, because it's serious business. But we're about to get ready to close out. Is there anything else anybody wanted to say real quick? Logic, wanted to thank you on for our first 2A discussion. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, I really did. It seemed like the hour kind of flew by.
Yeah.
And I think we need to have some more 2A discussions in the future where we're really digging more into this and being able to answer more questions and talking about, some of the, maybe the militia, the difference between a militia and the difference between, a gun club or whatever the case may be. So there are a lot more topics that we can break down, but I wanted to thank you, brother, tonight for helping us initiate our inaugural show. And tonight we're talking about 2A. Natalie, I wanted to thank you for being here and all the work that you've
Thank
done.
you.
Yeah, you did an amazing job. I wanted to show our appreciation. Thanks to everybody that came on tonight and made a comment and said a little something. Hopefully you were able to learn. Hopefully you'll be able to share out when it's published. And let's come back and let's do this again. I had a great time.
Yeah, make sure to
Absolutely.
like and subscribe to this channel. BTP Media Group will be coming back for more content that is kind of expanding over the Be the Power kind of umbrella. So it'd be awesome. Thanks again for inviting me as well, just to kind of listen and learn. And also, By the People Media is emerging, so definitely make sure to like and subscribe the content on that channel as well.
Absolutely. All right
Um,
then, family.
thank you for having me on. I just wanted to say that I love this particular subject, and I would definitely love to come on again and talk about this, help do some training and educating, And like, if the people don't know how to reach y'all, can you tell them how to reach y'all where they can have questions? Maybe we can like package that up into another program. You know, get with Sister Ross, get with Sister Natalie, and send them their questions. Tweet it to them, put it in the inbox. Well, in this video comment section, we'll look at all of that. Put them whatever questions y'all have. We'd love to answer them. And whatever kind of training we can put together in the future, I'd love to help coordinate some stuff like that, and just whatever we can do to enhance the family. I'm all with it. I really appreciate being invited on to this discussion. I mean, shout out to By the People Media, man. I really am feeling the vibe, man. I like it. Sister Rod, you already know we love you to death, and anytime you come on is a blessing. And it's my first time meeting Sister Natalie. Man, I'm already impressed by the things you brought, and you ain't even say much. And so I really am interested in working more with you too. So I just appreciate both of y'all so much. And thanks for having me on, man, once again, and enhancing the platform.
All right, now that's what I'm talking about. We love you to life too, Brother Logic, and Be the Power Brothers. We here holding it down. As you see, the that's one of us over there. That's a freedman racking it in the corner. So we not playing games over here. Just we really set this off. And one of the things I want to say too is we cannot forget about our rights. When we're speaking about our rights in the 2A community, we have to remember our own 2A rights. We can't just go and march and people not scared of us marching in the street unless we're marching in the street and we have our open carry firearms that's legal. That's when they pay attention. That's when they really recognize us and they want to hear what we have to say. Marching in the street with a cardboard sign, they've seen that all before. So that right there is not going to get it. I have no, if somebody can show me otherwise, then you have to approach me with, pardon the pun, logic, right? Logic and practicality. It doesn't make sense to sit there and think that you're going to put flowers in the muzzle of somebody's firearm, and that's going to stop them from using it on you. Don't let what you see on TV mess you up in real life. But I wanted to thank you all for our inaugural podcast, and I wanted to let you know that I'm very pleased that you all attended and check us out. You can reach me at Steel Pedal Defense. That's PETAL defense.com. Also onyxsharpshooters.club. That's how you can join if you're in the DMV area. NAAGA, NAAGA.co. And of course, bythepeoplemedia@gmail.com. Okay, so we'll talk to you soon, and thank you all for joining us. You all have a blessed and wonderful night.